Welcome to Tending the After. I hope you're having a peaceful morning. I'm Heather, an administrative guide to the bereaved. I help the bereaved trade corporations for community and paperwork for people. This episode is going to start a multi-part series about what the heck do I do now? A checklist. There are many, many resources you can use for this. I will be including some that I come across in the show notes, but for now, I will mostly be taking inspiration from the list on everloved.com/after-death-checklist. I am not sponsored, though if they want to sponsor me, I am open. I'll spend the next episodes in this series going into each item in depth, but today I wanted to do kind of a big summary, because you don't always know in the granular details, what do I need to do? You need the list. A lot of people, they just want the list first. So here is the list. And you might be thinking, Heather, isn't that your business? Why are you giving us the list? Well, technically, crossing off these items piece by piece is the practical work of what I do, but taking on the mental and executive burden is the value that I give my clients. And I can't give you that in a checklist, so stick around for the list, and it will become clear just how much there is to do while you're grieving. All right, so I am on everloved.com/after-death-checklist/. And they have a checklist. It's actually a really great little setup they have. You can sign in and use the checklist, and it'll mark your percent done. You can assign different people and mark the status of each individual item. And they have them categorized into 11 subcategories of work to do. So you know who to talk to about which particular tasks. And you can add notes. You can add notes to each task. And in the subnotes of those tasks, they have articles with more information that are very helpful. I do recommend you go read them. So we're going to start with tallying them up. I just said they have 11 subcategories. And within those subcategories, there are varying amounts of tasks, varying from 3 to 11 different subtasks for a total of 66 items. Now, that's not just 66 things to do. That's not just 66 conversations. That's not just 66 pieces of paper to find. Those are decisions. Those are continual tasks, monitoring to do. Some of them can be done quite quickly. Some of them may have already been decided ahead of time if your loved one had pre-death planning, but a lot of people don't. Only 34% of Americans have an advanced care directive, and I will include in the show notes what percent of Americans have planned funerals.
This is Editing Heather. It was 20%. 20% of Americans are estimated to have made plans for their own funerals or burials, according to 2025 Pew Research.
Okay, so starting from the top, we have immediate tasks. There are 5 of them. They recommend immediately after you found out that a loved one has passed away. Arranging care for any pets or dependents. Makes sense. Children, adults with special needs, pets need to eat, be cleaned, be fed, taken care of. So immediately, if their guardian cannot do that, they need to be put somewhere safe where they will be taken care of. Secure a major property, notify close friends and family, select a funeral home or other provider. That is quite an extensive choice. And notify the person's employer. So those are the first 5. Then we have as soon as you can. There are 10 tasks that you should do kind of as soon as you can. And they are listed as notify the broader community, start going through the mail, sign up for the DD&C list. Now this one actually I did not know about before I checked out this list. I went through it, and on the DD&C episode where we go through that subtask, I'll get more into it, but I am really hoping that this helps out my family as well. Perform a more thorough home check, decide on a method of disposition, decide on a final resting place, order a casket or urn, write an obituary, order death certificates, give direction on memorial donations. So I have a lot of just deciding how the funeral or memorial is going to happen, what happens to the body. Those are a lot of those, as soon as you can, we need an answer on that. And some of those items will have been predetermined. There will have been conversations. There will have been prepayments possibly. And so it's very important to look through and find those if you do not already know about them. I will continuously throughout all episodes of my podcast advocate for having conversations with your friends, family, loved ones about what you want and where the information pertaining to that is. You don't have to give it to everyone, but you do have to give it to trusted people because they're going to be the ones who take care of it after. Take care of them. Okay, on to the next one. 6. 6 items for finances. Notify the life insurance companies. Settle any trusts. Apply for Social Security survivor benefits. Apply for veterans benefits. Ask about employer benefits. And get additional support. 11. Events. Decide what type of funeral or memorial event you would like to have. Then choose a venue. So now we're event planning. Isn't it so fun? We're grieving and now we're event planning. Set a date and time. Decide whether to live stream events. Now this might have been updated back during COVID or just because you have family members and friends who live far away and can't get the time off or physically cannot travel. So there would be good cases to live stream an event like a funeral or a memorial service. I know it can feel a little weird, but people that want to be there and can't would really appreciate it. So maybe consider that if you've never thought about it. Choose the participants. Depending on what kind of ceremony you're having, there are a lot of roles to be filled. There are a lot of people who want to be included and don't know how. And there are a lot of people who feel overwhelmed by having a responsibility. So there are conversations that need to happen around who's doing what. And those can be hard. And those can be hard to plan ahead of time because you never know how you're going to feel. Write your eulogy. Determine the order of events, order printed programs, create any desired videos. Now this can be a heartwarming moment when you're going through and creating videos, recording memories, finding old photos, but also depending on how much time you have between being notified of the death, doing these other to-do lists, and going through photos, videos, everyone's cameras, where's that SD card? This can be actually very stressful. Order flowers and other decor, and coordinate food and drinks. Because when people show up, I was born in the South. When people come, we gotta feed them. Next, professional services. There are 2 items listed here. You will want to start the probate process and hire a tax accountant. Now, we're getting into the part where I need to say, I am not a lawyer, I am not a CPA, I am not a certified financial planner. I am just a person with life experience, extensive education, but none of it to do with this. So do talk to a lawyer about starting the probate process. On our probate episode, where I go into this sub-item, we will get more into what the public can know. Not that any of it is secret, but just kind of, I can't give you legal advice, obviously. But there are things we can look up and learn ahead of time. So those are my disclaimers. So starting the probate process, hiring a tax accountant. Because bummer, dead people have taxes. Ooh, if I get this out in time, I will advocate, my parents are dead, now what? Is having a bureaucracy and, what did she title it? Bureaucracy Beyond the Grave, a free webinar at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on April 15th, tax day, very appropriately, where she will be talking about all of the extensive research that she has done and come up with relating to death and taxes. So definitely head over there if this is out in time for that and get signed up. I will be there. Let's educate ourselves. Someone else has gone through the trouble of doing the research for us. So why not sit in? Okay. Next, bills. There are 7 sub-items here. We have notify the mortgage company or the landlord. notify any car vendors, notify cable and internet providers, notify the cell service provider, notify utility companies, cancel online subscriptions, cancel physical subscriptions. If you try to do any of this in your day-to-day life, someone doesn't have to die to change your cable or internet provider, and it is a pain. I will get more into those on specific sub-episodes, but actually those specific items are really what led me to this entire journey, because there is no reason that it should have been that painful to switch over our phone provider. AT&T, I'm looking at you. Okay, on to additional notifications. Additionally, notify the Social Security Office, notify major credit reporting agencies, and notify any additional creditors. And you might be thinking to yourself, I don't want to identify creditors because then they'll know to come looking for us. Again, come to the Death and Taxes event. I'm pretty sure she'll probably touch on it, but if not, in our sub episode on notifying creditors, we'll touch on it. Generally, in broad strokes, there are specific circumstances where this changes. Again, not a lawyer, but generally, you cannot inherit a parent's debts. Now, if you are married or co-signed for things and other specific circumstances, talk to your lawyer, then yes, you will be responsible for those debts. But generally, at least for children, you cannot inherit your parents' debts. On to number 5. Okay, so we've had the party, we've called the companies. In theory, most of that has already happened. We've now moved on to personal possessions. Step 1, the thing everyone thinks of. Distribute the items mentioned in the will. But not everything gets mentioned in the will. Have you ever tried moving? You have years of stuff filed away in your house. There is stuff, and not all of it made it onto the will. Then you need to sell any unwanted valuables. I mean, you could just give them away, but most people choose to sell them. And that takes work. Anyone who's hosted a Facebook Marketplace item knows selling stuff takes work. You can offer other items to friends and family, donate other useful items, and throw away anything that's remaining. And that part can be oddly difficult and time-consuming and emotionally draining. Anticipate that one is going to be harder than just, okay, we'll show up with some trash bags, we're about done here. Number 3, we're getting to the last few. When you're ready, order a headstone. I know it seems strange, but at least as far as I'm aware, when you go through the whole funeral process, if you're doing a traditional kind of burial, vault, all that, there's not a headstone. You have to take time and order that. There may be specific cultural, we'll get into it in the specific episode, but it's not always guaranteed that you will have that done at the time of the funeral. That was an additional item. When you're ready, send thank you notes. This one just brings us back in touch with humanity. A lot of people came out, a lot of people reached out and hopefully offered support and community, and writing back to them in a thank you note, one, can be something that helps you just have something to do, feel alive, feel the community presence. We will get into the importance of thank you notes, but it can feel stressful to keep track of, and one more thing to do when we're already over 60 items into a list of to-dos. But this one's important. And then finally in this category, consider future memorial events. There's the saying that someone dies 2 deaths, their first death, and then the last time that their name is spoken. How do you want this person to be remembered? We'll get more into it on that episode, but important things to consider. And then the last 3, because nothing makes us think about death more than experiencing death. The last 3 items. Consider yourself. Create your will or revise your will. Record your own information. What did you go through when you were wondering and digging around? Where the heck is that? Write it down for yourself. Because you might not be next, but one day. And consider life insurance. I am not a life insurance salesperson. This is just on the list. We'll get into that one on the next day. But those are the 66 items on the sample checklist from everloved.com. And I think it's a really great place to start. If you never thought about what happens after there's a death and have nowhere to look, don't even know where to start digging around, the internet is full of resources. Use whichever ones work for you. If you're feeling a little lost, I would recommend starting here.
I mentioned at the top of the episode that I don't mind giving away this checklist because the value that I provide my clients is not just marking off these items like a to-do list, but taking the burden that is figuring these out, knowing who to call, keeping track of the deadlines and organization. As an administrative guide to the bereaved, I help my clients trade corporations for community and paperwork for people. So if this list seemed daunting and you couldn't even imagine, or you've had to imagine because you've been there, going through all of these items when you're in the middle of a loss, whether it was one you anticipated happening or one that struck down out of the blue, it would be my honor and privilege to be able to help you and your family move through that time and do so in a way that lets you focus on the very real human part of grief and loss that is coming together, being with your community, and not worrying about paperwork.
That's all I have. We've read through the list and you kind of know what to expect for the next, is it 66 episodes? So there will be a future series. I'll name them so you know which ones are which. But we'll get into them. For now, good night and have a peaceful morning. I'll check in again next time.